Okay, and I see, who am I seeing there? Glad to see you there, Tyler, and I'm going to mute everything. Hope you'll have a great weekend coming up, and I'm starting early. I should have a few people, I think, maybe join me here, and we'll have some people online, and we'll go from there. Make sure we're good here. All right, recording, and we're ready to go. And let me, we'll just do some of the usual housekeeping stuff and take a look at where we are. Now, we are, in terms of modules or weeks, we're at week 6 or module 6. And of course, next week is spring break, so the campus is deserted basically. Pretty thin today. Now, as I said, we've been working through these chapters in the Lunches database. These Lunches database, we've been working through the chapters, working with the queries in the Patrick text. And we stopped back at last week's video, and it looked like we had stopped at chapter number 8. So we'll start with chapter number 9, and we'll go through there. And chapter 9 is going to be more about row functions, okay? And these are, basically they over on at the start of the chapter, and that's over on pages 323 in the Patrick text. They tell us what a row function does, okay, and they give us the definition of a function. What is that? And it's calculated or constructing a value that's not in the beginning table. Okay, so, and in this case, what we're doing is we're taking elements in a record, i.e. a row, and we're doing some type of mathematical or perhaps some type of character string, work with them, or formatting or something of that nature. So we're working through row functions. Now, once we're finished that, we'll start to work with aggregate functions, which are column functions. And so that'll give us a sense. At that point, we're going to start moving into territory where we're combining tables, that type of thing. Now, over in chapter 9, they talk about getting data from the beginning table. And as you can see over there on page 323, and I wish this book was online, it's not in the Kindle format. Basically, what we do is we take a beginning table, and there in that beginning table, you see a few squares, or cells. Those are the cells that meet the criteria of the function, or those that we have selected to exercise a function upon, okay? And what they end up with is a result table. So when we do a row function, we go row by row by row, and we'll pull those things out that meet our criterion. And basically, they show us there how that row function is done conceptually. Of course, they give the beginning table and then the new value created by a function from the values in one more of the columns of a single row. So it's a function is a way that we calculate a new value from a set of data, okay? And again, those two pages are 323 and 324, and then of course at 325 walks you through more of a sequential step of how we get those data, okay? And so this is why building tables is so important, and this is why making certain that we have unique records is important. And when we were I had 1123 today. That was the business problem analysis, that class, and we were working on one of the cases there, and we talked about building a table and making certain that the rows are distinct. And we do that because if we have duplicate rows, we're going to get anomalous or inaccurate data. And so there on page 325, they walk us through. We create a new column by applying the row function. Then we select the data that we want from the resulting table. Now, at the bottom of page 325, the authors are going to show you the Oracle code for doing that. And at the top of page 326, they show us the Access SQL. Now, before we do that, I just want to make sure that that I alert you to some things that are ongoing. Okay, and here is a resource information builders. Here's an information about the top trends in data warehousing. Here is a place if the Code Academy, you can learn it. SQL, that's, if you see that agenda, that's old. And then this is a link this is a file that tells you how to access SAS Visual Analytics. And if I'm not mistaken, I'll be doing it. Then some information about technology, Moneyball, and using analytics as regards the baseball's data revolution, and using it, applying it to fielding. Of course, baseball is about statistics on everything. And here is this. This would be a file that you could upload for chapters 10, 11, Lunch's database 10, 11, and 12. Now, as it stands, I work ahead with these and I say, okay, that's Lunch's 9, that's Lunch's 8, whatever, and upload it to make sure that you get the workshop credit. So we're going to be working with number 9 tonight, and maybe we can get through 10. Now, what I probably will do is I'm going to try to go about an hour and a half or so, about an hour to an hour and a half, as I usually do, stop, and then I'll post a follow-up, a second part, maybe, and then maybe if I see something over at YouTube or TED or somewhere that looks like it's worthwhile, I'll pop that your way so you can kind of see a guest lecture, if you will, or see another demonstration. So we're going to go up here into the files area, and we're going to go in. And again, those of you who are online, thank you. And I'm sure I'll have a few people. I might have one or two pop in to the live lecture here. I'm over here at Shawnee. Now let's look at the files. Okay, and we're going to come in here and we're going to get the Patrick materials. Okay, and then we're going to go to work with them. Now let's see. That's the rock off on with the Patrick. Here's the Patrick materials, the zip file, and we'll download it. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take the zip file, and I'm going to stick it. I'm going to stick the SQL file on the desktop. Okay, and well, let's see. I already have it there, don't I? I think I might have it. In fact, I do. I kept it from last week. And then we'll take the code for the specific chapters, and I think I have that as well. So I'm good to go. Now, let me see. Let me find those. There it is, the code. We're going to work on chapter 9 tonight. We're going to work on row functions, and those are covered in chapter 9. So, yeah, anybody, as you come in early, you can scroll back. Haven't missed that much. Just some housekeeping stuff. Now, again, just so that we understand where we are kind of in the course, we're over on row functions here in chapter 9. And then when we get to chapter 10, okay, and we're going to see some numeric functions, text functions, different type of ways of combining data that are in a record, okay, i.e. a row. And chapter 10 covers some specialized row functions, all right. And then when we get in, then chapter 11 starts with summarizing data. And that's where we begin to work with column functions, okay? And again, it's important to understand that you need to have unique rows, because if you don't have unique rows, neither row functions or column functions do you much good. And you know, it's one of the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. Well, I'm going to diminish this down. Okay, and I'm going to open up the Access SQL for Chapter 9. Okay, and I'll grab that there. And let me pull this up under here. I have a control bar, I think, that's invisible to all of you. And these are the functions for Chapter 9. And he walks us through several of these. Now, the first one is this 9 number 2, and that's over at the top of page 326. And we're going to take a look at it for just a minute. Now, let me go ahead, and I'm going to take that format, the font, and I'm going to increase it just a hair, make it a little bit easier to see. Okay? Now, here's what's going on. We're going to select from the foods table, okay, everything. You say, how do you know that? Well, first of all, it says select. Then we have the 1 or L underscore foods. Then we have the dot. And the asterisk is a wild card, which means we want everything from that table. Okay? Then here comes our function. We're going to take the price, okay, plus price increase as a new price. So we're going to create a column alias, and the function is we're going to do the addition of those two, and we're going to select them and then insert them into section 0902 foods, and we're going to get the data, of course, from the L foods. So let's open up the Access, all right, and let me see, I've got my database tools, I got SQL fun, and I'm going to click create, and I'm going to do a query design, okay, and we'll go down to the SQL level, SQL view, and again, this is 9 number 2, and let's see where I got you, up, and I want to get, okay, now we're going to take a look at this for a sec, and basically, again, they give us the beginning table over on page 326, okay? And we have a supplier, we have a product code, we have a menu item. I'm looking at the columns, and we have or fields. We have description, we have a price, and we have a price increase. And so what we need to do is an additive. We're going to add those two figures, and for fresh salad, soup of the day, on and on and on. Okay, and we're going to see, and we're going to get a new price with the price increase. And again, make sure that I show that to you. We use the column alias, which is as new price. Now, later on, when we're working with tables and we work that level, we're going to be using a lot of table aliases as well as column aliases, but a lot of table aliases just simply as a way to make the notation a little bit easier and just kind of keep things straight. When we work with rows, okay, or we use a column alias, we usually use it so that it's descriptive. It's more descriptive than what we would have. So we've got our we have the data in there, okay, and I'm going to click on the query, and I'm going to go to the datasheet view, and there it is, okay, and this is going to be, we're going to save this, and this is going to be 9-2, okay. We'll keep it simple. Now let's talk about what we did again. We simply took these items, okay, and we pulled them in the query. Then we took the price, okay, and then we took the price increase, all right, and we'll pull this over, and then we ended up with a new price. And so we have, for example, in this first record, fresh salad was $2. The price increase was 25 cents. The new price was $2.25. Now, let me say this about row functions. We're going to see a lot of row functions that are very useful and very powerful. I'm always going to say this, though. If you have a lot of cases, let me put it like this. If you have some tricky computational work, you're probably better off to go ahead and take the data and perform the numeric calculations or work over in a spreadsheet and then dump the result table over into Access. Now, if you do that, then if you would need to update something at some point, you could do so. But in certain cases, you just simply want to do it. Now, this is one of those times, and we'll just open the, show this again, where we're just doing something very simple, okay? We're adding the price, okay, to a price increase, and that gives us, and the new column is created called new price. That's all that's going on, and otherwise we got everything out of the foods table, okay? And so that's 9.2. No big deal there. We just did an addition function. Now, over on page 328, they give us a different task, okay? And we're going to do a row function in the select clause. And this time, we're going to add a little more complexity as we typically do. So we'll close this off, okay? And we'll close this 9.2. So yes, we'll save it. And we want to come in here, and we want to click Create, okay? And I'm going to pin that on there so it stays. And I'm going to go click Home. Pardon me. I'm going to click Create, Query Design, okay? And I'm going to go down to the SQL view. Now, let me stop for a moment here, because you saw me kind of hesitate and start to work at the SQL at the design level. Okay, I started to go back up here for a sec. Sometimes we'll go to the design view. Sometimes it's easier. Well, this query is in SQL, so it's not going to play nice with me. But sometimes it's just simply easier. Oh, I am in design view. I'm sorry. It's going to be easier to work here than it is in dealing with the code. We're going to deal with the code for now, and we'll go from there. So okay, and I'm going to go in and get 9.3. Now let me go ahead and pop that up for us. We'll take it up to 20. I think that'll be a little easier for us to deal with. And here we're going to select the menu item, description, the price plus price increase is new price. That's that new column we created from foods. Now, here we begin to insert some clauses where the menu item is less than 15, and then we're going to order the menu item. What we're going to do here in these last, as I said before, and you've seen this now, each time we just add in, we do a little bit more with the generic query that we've got there. In this case, this basically is like a sort or kind of a filter. I look at it more like a sort where I do a primary sort, which is menu items less than 15, and then I do a secondary sort where I order them by menu item, okay? And you say, okay, that sounds like I'm working back in the custom sort in Excel. Exactly. All right, so I've got that popped in there. I'll get that go, and we'll click on C. And so we're going to run that puppy, and away we go. And there's the new price. And notice that we have it ordered. Okay? So we've done 9.2 and 9.3, and you could slap both of those equations in there. You could slap both of them in there and run them. And just because they're kind of peas in a pod, I want to make sure we all see them. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select, in this first query, I select the foods. From the foods table, I select everything. That's what the asterisk is all about. Then I have a column called price, okay? And that table's over on page 328, okay? And then I have a column called price increase. And 328. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a row function. And the row function is this operator, the plus. And again, when we're in row functions, it's absolutely essential that you make sure, first of all, that you have unique records in the table you're going after. Because if you don't, you're going to get anomalous data. And you shouldn't have, duplicates, okay? You just shouldn't. Now, the only way would be, let's take this table for a moment, okay? I've got this beginning table, and 328, I've got the supplier ASP, and they sell me items 1 through 3. And then I've got this CBC, this vendor or supplier, and they sell me 2 items, and then FRB, then JBR. The truth is, this is highly simplistic in terms of what you'll see out in the real world. You're going to see that ASP will have 2 or 3 kinds of fresh salads, 2 or 3 kinds of soup of the day, 2 or 3 sandwiches. Who knows? Okay? And it'll be up to you to make sure that you're probably going to have to put in the product codes that are there in that table are okay, and the menu items are okay, but you'll probably at some point have to have a product. You have the product description, and boy, that could get really, really tough with all of those, with a whole ton of records. But if you can keep them all, if you can make sure, for example, on this foods table, I would want to make sure that the menu item is the primary key in that table. Now, the authors would probably differ with me, but I'd say that is the key field because it's a menu item. And I'm sure they disagree, it's probably not, but that's what I would make the primary key. Now, on 9.3, this second thing, okay, is nonsensical. Once you've run the query, and you've seen the data set. So there's no point to run another query to see the table when you can click on it if you want to, or just look at the data set. But again, the author is old school, and he wants to make sure that you understand that when you put select asterisk from the table, you get everything in the table, okay? Now, 9.3, like I said, is a little bit different critter. And again, I'm going to highlight before we run it. And we're going to select the menu item, description, and the price plus price increases new price, okay? And then we'll have that new price there from the foods table. And notice we have a primary sort, which is the menu item is less than 15. And then we have a secondary sort where we order them by menu item. Otherwise, if I left that order by there, by default, any database is going to put them in ascending order, but I want them by menu items. So I've got that ready to run. And we'll run and take a look at it and see what we have. Okay, and let's go ahead and just save that query right now as 9.3. And so we have our menu item, we have the description and the new price. Now I want you to notice something, okay? We have an anomalous record here. You say, what? I have 2 anomaly records. What do you say? What do you mean? Well, I don't have new prices for these, okay? And here's the problem. I don't know what the price of them is. I know the new price for everybody else, but I don't think I'm selling these. I don't think I'm giving the soup away. So let's go down into the design view, okay, and take a look. And what I'm going to do there, I'm going to take a stab at this and put the price in. Now let's just see what that looks like. Okay, that's not going to cut it. So I have a bit of a problem there. Oh, this is, well, let's see. Let's go back down into design view. And oh, I don't like what I'm seeing here. This is one thing where the authors have kind of given us something to show us how to run it, but it's it's problematic. Now, what I perhaps could do would be to come down, and I could use the search function, and we'll work with some of those later to choose the foods that don't have a price increase. But I don't know, how I don't know how valuable that's going to be. And he's just having us run some queries here. So in effect, the soup of the day, there's 1, there's 2 records. And okay, here's part of the problem. If you look at page 328, this is the bane of people who work with databases, is the question of something. What do we need? Null versus 0. Okay. Now I'm going to put this query here, and I'm going to go into the foods table, which is open. Open up the foods table. All right. And I have to ask myself as a manager, is there no price increase for these? I have to assume there isn't. But even if there isn't, okay, I still need to have a new price. So I'm going to put this in as 0, since it's a 0. And I'm going to have to put this in as a 0. Having a null value there just kills me. So I'm going to save that. All right. And then I'm going to try to run this. Okay. And let's go back down into the datasheet view. Pardon me, go down to the SQL view, and let's run it and see what we get. Okay, now we have our new prices, okay, and we know that soup of the day stayed the same, right? And we know that French fries stayed the same. So what I would probably do with this, instead of telegraphing this as, let's go down to SQL. Instead of telegraphing this as new price, I would probably call it as current price. Okay? Because that's more descriptive, and it's, well, it's just more accurate. And there we have the current price. Okay? So you got it. Now, the authors haven't got too much over into this, but we've had our first encounter with that grisly thing called a null value. Null values are the absolute total bane of people who work with database. If you want to see somebody go into geriatric, into some kind of fit, rolling on the ground, you can do it with foods. Now I'm going to open the foods table up for a minute. Let's go into the design view on foods, okay? And we'll close this, and we're going to come down here to price increase, okay? And I'm going to put the default value is 0, okay? And we put required, and we're going to put it's required yes, okay? And I'm going to see if I can, I need to do the drop-down menu. And it's not going to let me play nicely, huh? Well, let's go back up here. And I should have zeros in here. I do. Good. Good. Okay. So I'm good. So we put that default value in there. I didn't. How did I do that? Well, we're good. But we never. You'll probably hear me say this several times. This is an important thing to remember. Null is worthless. for a database. Because first of all, it creates ambiguity. That is, did someone forget to put the information in there? Okay. Is it the wrong information, or is it zero? Zero or null are two different things. And you'd be surprised how many times I go out and I work with folks, and bless their hearts, they leave blanks, which are basically nulls. So we've done 9.3, okay, and I've tried to impart some wisdom along with that. And a lot of these are just, you know, really good to do. Now, over on page 329, in the middle of the page, they have one of these check your understandings. And you've heard me say on a number of occasions that sometimes it's just easier to work in, you know, sometimes it's just easier to work in the, the graphic design, in the GUI. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to click Create, and then we're going to go to Query Design, okay, and we're going to select the foods table. No, oh, pardon me, employee ID. Okay, we're going to get the employees table. Okay, and instead of writing all that code, it's going to be a lot easier to drag and drop over here and get the data that we want. So I'm going to get the employee ID, and then I'm going to get their first name, their last name. We want their credit limit, okay? And we're going to order it by employee ID. And now we can choose to either leave employee ID alone in terms of the sort, and it will default to ascending value, or we can put it in terms of descending value. We're just going to leave it alone, okay? And by default, it will do that. Now, before I run the query, let's go down and look at the SQL. Now, if I can go down into an iconic environment as opposed to writing all this code, I'm going to do it, okay? When I do the GUI, it generates the code anyway, so I'm good to go. All right, so I'm going to run that puppy, okay? And I'm going to call this one, we'll say this is 9.31, okay? But I wanted to show it to you because it's one of those check your understanding things. And they say, all right, yeah, it's one of these little problems, and they tell you, and you know, look at the code, okay, versus the size, okay, object frame rules. All right, okay, I'm not being nice to, so I'm going to do this 9-31. Let's see if it'll take the dash, and it does. Very good, and we'll close that off. I wanted to show you that because there are going to be times when it's a lot easier to work in the graphic user environment. Graphic user interface environment, the GUI, than it is. 9.4 is over on page 330, and a lot of times I think it's just as instructive for you just to see the logic of it. Here we're going to select the menu item, the description, price, and price increases, new price, and from the foods table. Okay, where the price and the price increase is greater than $2, and then we're going to order it by the price increase. Now, if I want to tweak it, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to call this current price instead of new price. And the reason is I want to make sure that everything looks like a little kosher. I'm going to go ahead and run the query. Okay, let's do it. And we're going to go ahead and put this in create, and I'm going to do query design, close, SQL, and away we go. And we'll run it, and there we are. And we have those menu items where the price increase was greater than $2. Now, technically, okay, let's see if we had the current price is $2.25. Was there anybody in there that had no? Soup of the day is not in there. Okay, French fries aren't in there, but the others that had the increase were good. So we're going to call that one, we'll say that's going to be 9.4. Okay, so we've done 9.4. Yeah, just a little bit of tweaking in terms of what we're working with. Okay. And there at the bottom of page 330, they show you the beginning and the ending table. Now, the author really loves to put us through one of these series of problems kinds of things where we do this step and that step and this step and that step. And, you know, that's wonderful, okay? But there's a point where the repetition can kind of numb your mind. So the first thing he says here, and this is page 332, we're going to create a view. Anytime we run a query, we create a view. Any query that's in a database or any query that's out there that's executable, the only thing that's stored is the code, not the data. That's why database technology is so incredible. Relational databases in particular, because I just store the code. Now, old-fashioned, what were called hierarchical databases were those in which we had to have an address in the computer that served as a pointer to the next place I wanted to go. That was a nightmare. So thank God for relational databases. So now we've got, so we have the first step. And what he has us do there in that first step on 332 is we name that query, we save the query and name it as step on view, okay? And then we have this step 2, and we use that, okay? We use the new view, okay? And he shows us the beginning table, and then the result tables produced by steps 1 and steps 2. And notice what's happening. As we go down here, the result set gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's smaller. Typically, when we do these steps like this, okay, we're extracting downwards. And sometimes it's just a multi-step process to do that. You know, it's I think you guys have probably seen this enough now. You could probably pretty much tell what's going on. You know the table, you understand select, we get description, price plus price increases the new price. That is the column alias. And then where it's important is because if you look down in the next query, which is 9.5 step, I call it 9-5 step 2, you'll see new price embedded there, and we created up there in that 905 step 1 view. Okay, and so it's just a matter of running a query, then running it, and then using that query, and we're good. Now, if your mind isn't numb by this point, okay, it will become so because of all these functions. Page 334, 335 show you all of the numeric functions that we use on rows. Okay, and you're going to see that, well, Access and Oracle have really done a fantastic job of providing you functions to use for computational work. But again, word to the wise, well, word of the wise, you probably want to use I would use the sine, rounding, and truncation functions, and otherwise I'd take the results of those computations there, okay, the addition, subtract, and multiplication, and then apply those, what I call formatting kinds of functions, once I've got it in the database. And again, those are just, it's just a matter of inserting them in and using them. And the over on page 336, we see how to test a row function. And so we're going to look at dual, and dual is what we call a table of constants. Okay, it's a dummy column. That's all it is. And you'll notice there at the bottom of page 336, the oracle, we're going to select 3 times 4 from dual. And what's going to happen is, okay, we're going to run that, and we're going to get the results set as they show you at the top up there of 337. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay. He wants again. It's just, well, okay. The table's not required, okay, because there's not a table here. We just have a column, okay, and we've named it. That's all this is. And because it really has nothing in there, it has the X, and we can substitute inside. Then we can use it, and the constants is whatever we supply it with. I don't know how functional they are, but they're there. Now, down bottom page 337, they show you the axis using the mod, okay, which is the remainder after division. Okay. For example, if we get 10 mod 3 is 1. You've done this in math, and again, when or why you'd use these, I don't know. Probably because he's a mathematician and loves to do stuff. Now, he's going to show us here the beginning table, okay, for the test numbers table, okay, and then a result table when we run the mod function, as he shows us down there at the bottom of 337. Okay, and he's got to cover this. It's just it's part of those functions, okay, and you can see, you take the numbers and then you apply the mod function to them. That's what you've got. You know, I guess I'm not a physical scientist, so maybe some people over in the physical sciences use that. I don't know why I would be using a business application, but you know, math is good for us, just like beats. Okay, no, math, I love math, but I'm no good at it, which is why I do what I do for a living. In other words, I'd be out trying to figure out how large the universe is. Now, we've got these different functions, and now we come to the fun part in chapter 9, and that's dealing with functions on text. Now, when the machine deals with data, okay, it's data agnostic, meaning it just sees strings of stuff if they're connected, or it sees just data. It sees strings basically. And if you put in a 1, it's going to, and you have a certain amount of space reserved, and that's what you do when you go and set up the table, like a short integer or whatever. It's just going to treat it like that and handle that. If you put the 1 in a short text, it'll treat the 1 as a text, or if you put it as a number, it's going to treat it as a number. And so he walks us through these functions in Oracle Access and what they do. And probably the one I think that's the most used is the concatenation. Okay, now he's got some other text strings built in here, and these don't become problematic. You don't really need to use them unless you've got some data that you need to clean up or work with, or what I call doing some data wrangling. And one of them would be, and you probably, I think you're probably better off if you're going to do it over in Excel, excuse me. Let me see. Today I was working with 1123, and we're building a lookup table, okay? And we went out to a website and we got a list of states and their abbreviations. And the list had Alabama and AL, and Alabama, a dash, and AL, okay? And so we could come in here and use one of these and use the mid and cut that substring and split it into 2 columns. But it's just so much easier to come over here and go into the data and use text to columns, okay? And there's no selected there, but it's just so much easier. So I'd say these are fine, they're wonderful to have, but and again, you've got substring or the mid, and they show you the examples over there. And I'm not gonna go through all of that because, frankly, I think you ought to have the data. If you're gonna, I would go out and import. I'd go back in Excel and I'd import the data and have it like I want it, instead of trying to work with these functions. This is just lots and lots of work. He said, well, what if I inherited a database that had a bunch of stuff that I need to wrangle a bit? Throw it in Excel and do your work there, and or throw it into Word and then back to Excel. Do what works best, and the author has to show us these functions on the text, okay? But the truth is, these are really, yeah, they're useful, not that useful anymore. Now, let's look at that, and we're going to do some concatenation because that's probably the most used of all of them. And this is going to be 9, 10. So we're going to grab that access SQL and we'll go back over there and find that. We'll come down and find 9, 10. Concatenation is the one that's used the most. If you're, like I said again, if you're going to be splitting data and all that, go into Excel. It has a far more intuitive interface to work with. Now, here what we're going to do, and this is the access SQL at the bottom. We're going to select the employee ID, and then we're going to take the first name, and you see the ampersand, okay, and then you see a single quote, space, single quote. So we're going to have a space, then we have the ampersand, and we have last name as full name. So we're going to take that first name, okay, and here's the process. I'm going to take first name and the ampersand, okay? We're going to do concatenation, and I'm going to include a blank space, and then we're going to do the concatenation again with last name, and the third process in this row is we're going to call it, we're going to call it full name, and we're going to get that from the employees. Okay, so let's take that and we'll do a little bit of work with concatenation. Hopefully, you'll be working for people that will provide you some quality data. You won't have to do some of that. Now, we want to get this from the employee ID. I want to get this from the employees table. Correct? Yeah. Okay. And up. Let's remove the table. Let's go into the SQL view. I have it there. Why am I going to do that? And there we are. We've concatenated it. We put their employee full name. Watch what we've got. I've got the full name, their ID, pardon me, their last name, a space, and a first name. Okay? And that is concatenation. Most of the time, we're either splitting or combining columns of some type. Now, I've taken a couple of courses on R programming, which the folks in the physical sciences use, because they will often get data that are just so unstructured that it's just impossible to try to do anything with them. And they have some really incredible functions in R programming that will just put stuff in a table and row environment, and it's just incredible. But it's yeah, you have to work with it a lot. And I took a couple of courses, and frankly, I'd be lost as a goose in a rainstorm. But often what they do is they will be dealing with data from all kinds of sources in different eras, and and so they have to be able to take data and work with them and clean them up, get them into a format where they can work. And here we are. Now, again, we did the concatenation, and there's the result table. Over on 911, they talk about separating the first and last names, and you can see the step, the step, okay, that we did. First step, the second step, and you can either do that, or I'd take the stuff, unless I have too many cases, I'd dump it in Excel, and I'd do that text to columns, and then import it back. Because what we're wanting to do here is separate these first and last names out so they're nice, pretty columns. So we're doing just the reverse of the concatenation, and there we're going to select that, and that's the in string, okay, function. And this is where, you know, it makes you go head scratching. Over on page 343, the INSTR, starting position of one string occurring in another, okay. String being a set of characters, numbers, spaces, etc. Now you're getting dangerously close to doing some computer programming, and you're not going to be paid to be a computer programmer. You're going to be paid to be a decision maker. Okay, and so hopefully you'll have sympathy for the people in IT when somebody says, "Hey, we just bought a new branch of so and so." Or we bought a new company, and here's our database, and let's meld everything together. And they're sitting there going, okay. Now, formatting phone numbers, page 349. They show you this one on using Access SQL on how to do it. As you've heard me say before, when you design a table, okay, if you do the table correctly, you don't have to mess with junk like this query here in the middle of page 349. You see what I mean? Well, let's go into, we're playing around with the employees table. I'm opening it up and go to design view. All right, and they want us to have the phone number in a certain format. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to phone number and click on it. And I'm going to come down to the input mask, okay, and choose it, and away we go. Access was designed for two purposes. One, as a model database, because it's kind of the grandpappy or grandmammy of all of them that are out there in commercial products. It was also designed to be used by normal human beings, okay? And so the input mask is one of those where we can use the input mask. I would just use the automatic input mask. The truth is, when you and I look at data that's already hopefully going to be formatted for us. So I don't see the point of running that unless you want to feel a strong sense of accomplishment. But since it's near break, let's do that because we want to have a strong sense of accomplishment. So I'm going to say yes, and I don't know, I'm going to call that 9 dash, I'm going to call it UFO. I want the 9 dash UFO. Let's see if it'll accept that. Here we go. And then I'm going to run to 912. Let's go back and grab it. One of the reasons this course is called Data Administration, and when the course was first designed, it was about a year or two when I came here, and what we really tried to strive for is to give you a look behind the scenes at what's going on, and so you can communicate more readily with the IT people. The other is also to impress upon you how a database can be used as a business model. And if you don't believe me, go look at Amazon, or go look at Hulu, or go look at Google. Let's run that. There it is. We got our query. That's 912. Now there are some that are used as Amazon is what we call a recommendation engine. There are also some called that are a curatorial engine. And I'm a big, huge movie buff. And if you go over if you go to Turner Classic Movies, which is I'm a disciple of theirs, it is a curated database, meaning it's been curated by people who are knowledgeable about movies, etc. And so they curate it, they select stuff, and that's part of their staple. Now, one of the other things is that I don't know how many of you have ever heard of him, a man named Ted Turner, who started the Turner Broadcasting System. And I guess it was in the late 80s or early 90s, the old studios were kind of dissolving. And Warner Brothers was the last movie studio left. And at one time, they were like factories. It turned out some of these actors of old times would do 5, 6, 7 movies a year. And they're under contract and just incredible stuff. But to make a long story short, he bought that because he understood that those are digital products and they can be recycled and rehabilitated, etc. He bought the whole Warner Brothers catalog, and he used it, and then he sold those old movies, to people on Saturday night. So maybe you grew up as a kid, your mom and dad, Saturday night, 11 o'clock, said, hey, let's watch the old movies. And after a while, it kind of evolved. But that's a curated site, whereas Amazon is a recommendation engine that recommends on the basis of sales and your own choices and preferences. Now, we've got this 912, and we put the phone numbers in, and we utilized the first name and last name, and then the quotes, area code, and the prefix, and see the concatenation, that's the ampersand, phone number as phone number 2. Okay? You say this sounds like a lot of these are very specialized functions, and they truly, truly, truly are. Date functions, they give us all of those date functions there, and you can see now they are very, very tricky. And look, I'm a coward, and what I do is I will use, usually I just will use I'll just embed the date I want in in pound signs. Now, however, you can, if you want, use some of these specialized functions to pull some data out or recreate some, and they give you some of those examples there, and they're just very specialized in terms of what you're after. And you can see that I think some of the more useful are like month, year, weekday, date serial, date value, that can be made, which is round. The truth is, when you and I, thank goodness gracious, are lucky enough to live in a day and time, when we work with these databases, that stuff's already built in there for us. We don't have to worry about it, but it's nice to see that it's there. Now, let's look over at page 355, and we'll take a look at 914. Again, and the author, just like me, is a coward because he put his date. He's going to get it as an integer, the int. He's going to round it to an integer. He's going to convert them over. And if you don't believe me, go see page 335. Hey, when I look at these things, I have to go back and look at it. I would memorize this. If I wanted to torture people, I guess I could make you memorize them, but I'm not going to. It would be crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and select the first name, and I'm getting the last name, the hire date, and then I'm going to round those to an integer minus the hire date divided by 30. So I'm going to find that'll give me how many months they have with the company. Okay, that's wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go to create, query design, We'll close this. We'll go to SQL, and we'll run it. And there it is. Okay. Now, we take a look here. Here's something that aggravates us. Look at this. We have an anomaly. We have null data in here. Yee. And I guess we just hired Carol Rose. Okay. Okay, well, wonderful. No. Okay. All right, so that's going to be 914. So we've had just kind of a nice little foray with this. As I said before, a lot of this is just to let you see under the hood. And the truth is, again, you're going to be working with products that are going to be so robust and so powerful that a lot of this junky stuff you won't have to worry with. But I hope as you suffer through this, you go, this is stuff that would, like, why didn't, okay, let me say this. If you have any insomnia over break, and you really do have some insomnia, watch this recording. Trust me, it will knock you out. And so if you're, be thankful that you're going to be working at a level where a lot of this has been taken care of for you. And a lot of times in the real world, the practicalities of row functions, especially date functions, how we handle text, etc., boils down to an issue of cost. How much is it going to cost me to store this? Now, this isn't a big deal if I'm looking at 50 or 100 or 1,000 or even 10,000 records. When I start getting to 100,000, 200,000 up in terms of records, it's server space, it's server responsiveness, it's time, and then I start to get a little persnickety about all of this. And for example, on the date entered there, the result table looks so pretty. Down in the belly of the beast, those will be handled as numbers and then will be shot up to be translated into a date. Just like when we've worked in Excel and we had a date and then we put it into a number format. And the reason is simple. It's cheaper and easier to store it. It's less space. And space becomes a premium now. Just to show you how much the cloud and all that's affected thing. When I was in school, graduate school, 10,000 records, space became a premium. Today, you're talking, oh goodness, how many records? Yeah, 30, 40 million, 100 million. Then, so it shows you how much. That's why Google's got server farms all over the country, and just massive number of blade servers. Well, that's 9, okay, and we looked at some more specialized row functions. So now, as we move over to 10, all right, we move into some more of those specialized row functions, okay, and again, we have to be careful with them, and these are where they convert data types. Well, I guess we'll take a brief foray into that BISS. All right, let's go ahead. So we've done. Now, what I'd like to have you do right now is, if you're working, and go ahead and save this. Okay, and save the database, and save it as, and I would do chapter 9, or let's LD 9, Lynch's database 9, and you can upload it where 9 is due, okay? Because I have a file for you that you can use for 10, 11, 12, and all of that. You say, where is that at? Well, it's over here. Now, let me pop up here for just a minute. As you can tell, those out there in TV land who are with me, as you can see, he is ready to leave his training camp there in the Tetons and go to St. Louis and whoop up on some other baseball teams. He's ready. I talked to him last night. He's ready. His arm is good. I'm being weird. Okay, let's go up here and take a look at, and I've got a file there, and I think it's over in the modules, okay, for 10, 11, and 12, because we're going to be working with some, and some of these are just, you know, they're so specialized, I don't know that it's really all that wonderful for you to work through them that quickly. All right, now I know, here you are. All right, now this is chapters 10 through 12, okay, and you can upload this one file for 10, 11, and 12, and I prefer to do that because you never know what's going to happen, and we've got some work in there anyway that we've done, and we can take a look at it, because I want to cover the chapters with you, and you never know when you might run into one of these, but frankly, a lot of times, well, most of this you're just not going to be you're not going to be doing it, but I want you to see it and understand it's probably good logic for you to do it. Let's and just to kind of give you an idea of that, let's look at and again, there's your upload. Now let's look at, we got chapter 10, and I'm going to close it off, and now I want to go to, pardon me, I just finished a closed chapter 9. Now I want to get chapter 10. Okay, and these involve changing data from one format to another. Okay, 10.2 is one we use to get to identify a user. Okay, like I say, it's not the most exciting thing. It's just select current user, and that's whoever is logged in and what they decide to call you as user. Format, and you see we start with the now function, okay, and then we move on and we have a formatting for a date, okay, and you can see the date, month, okay, and the days. I think that's what we're looking at, and then the years, and the hours, and the minutes, and is it AM or PM as the date and time. Let's copy that and we'll run it here, and I'm just going to play around with it. All right, down here. Okay, good. So this is one of the things that will make you go nutty. This is telling me I have an undefined format here. Let me look at this for just a minute. Yeah. Yeah. The format function no longer is operable here in Excel. So the format function is not going to work. Well, that was wonderful. I forgot all about that. Let's look over there on page 367 and take a look at 10.3, okay? In the middle there, the Access SQL Oracle style. And here they have the replacement value has the same data type as the column. And here we're going to select a primary key, okay? And then we see NZ. NZ means null. It converts a null to another value, and it talks about that over on page 363. And then again, it converts it to any null. It converts a null to another value. We've got the numeric column as numeric column 12, and then we've got the text column zilch as text column 12. Then the date column And we got those safely ensconced in hashtags as date column 12. And you'll see there's the beginning table. And we look at the section 1003 table, and there it is all put together. And that's one method. Now he's going to show us some different methods to do that. And that's the reason I gave you guys that file to upload. Page 370 shows us the one of the problems that we run into with row functions is that we can get some incorrect data, okay, unless we do our formats correctly. He shows us at the bottom of page 370 incorrect an access with an incorrect result, and it shows us these primary keys, text 1, text 2, and then we want to add the text. Okay, now you'll notice if you look at primary key row A that we get 84 because in access it wants to concatenate them. Okay, now remember these are text data, and then the text subtract would be 4 because we took the 8 away. Okay, it can handle the subtraction. Okay. And then the text multiply it can handle. The addition it can't. And the division it can handle. How did that happen? Who knows? Probably a security issue of some kind. And then you come down to primary key B and take a look at that. We have 33 and 11. The text addition, you'd think it would be 84. It is not. It's 3311. But the subtraction works. The multiplication works, and the division works. If you look over now, okay, at page 371 at the top, you'll see the correction on the access. And there are the fields we select, okay? And then the cent, that's where we're going to convert those characters to numbers. That's what it does, okay? And as text is added. So once we've converted the text to numbers, they're numbers. Now, this involves this piece when we hear people talk about data wrangling. This is the kind of thing that you get into. And again, you can see the result, the correct table with the mathematics. The rest of table 10 takes you into the what I call Dante's third hell, called the SQL function. And it is Dante's third hell. The function, the expression builder. Lord help us. It's never worked well for me. Maybe it does for you. You try it. But be my guest. Now, over on page 378, they show you a very useful thing, and that is you can take that set. Step 1. You're going to enter some numbers and create a set of numbers from 0 to 99. And then you're going to get the multiples of 3 out of those. Important work that you need to do. Again, he's probably has some hard science people who work with these, and they need and they'll use these. But for us, it's just not all that marvelous. Complex numbers, the mod. That's over on page 380. 1010, 381. We can even create a table of constants to give us all the days of a week. And we can get containing 7 dates. Again, you can see why then. And then that's all the consecutive days. This is stuff that would be handled by a low-level, entry-level programmer, not you nor me. Number of lines in a report. I'm over on page 392. Algebraic equations. As you can see, you know, it's fun stuff, but when you and I are dealing with numbers, we'd be smart to be over in Excel. As you can tell, with all these functions, row functions, if you show up to fight with them, bring a gun. Don't bring a knife. I remember I had a prof say that one time, and boy, was he right. They are just, you can get yourself twisted around the trees. So that's chapter 10. Now, chapter 11 will start us on summarizing data, and those are column functions. And so I'm going to stop at 11 because we'll begin to look at a different type of, we've done rows where we've taken records and added things together or altered them or formatted them. And now we're going to work with fields, okay? And we're going to be able to summarize data in terms of columns or fields. And what we're building to is where we'll be able to really work with the analytical cube as we work at row and column functions. And that's a lot like what we did when we did crosstabs. In fact, if you go back into this expression builder, it has a way to build crosstabs, which to me is senseless, when you could go in and throw it into pivot table and come out with the data you need, the information you need a lot faster and a lot quicker. So we're going to stop at column 11, okay? And again, this is chapter 9, okay? And you say you're you're kind of skeptical. You seem a little cynical about all these, yes. But again, this textbook is used by lots of different people in a lot of different settings and situations. It is a manual. It's useful for us in the sense of seeing that the work that has to go in to clean data up and get them into a format that is useful and understandable for us. And also understanding row functions and that process whereby we're working with records. Now we're going to start working with fields, i.e. variables. So thank you so much. That'll do it. I'll probably post a couple of things more for folks to take a look at. And for those of you here and in TV land who've gone through this mind-numbing experience, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And upload it into 9. And if you're a math geek and you really love math, I bet if I was in the math department, they'd just be loving this stuff. And because they can see some broader applications and uses for it. Okay? I just, I don't. Because I've got other toys I can play with that are just as much fun. Solver, pivot table, ran between a random. You give me those, a bottle of whiskey on Saturday night, and I'm happy. I'm just kidding. Give me the functions. You can give me a Diet Dr. Pepper. All right, my friends. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the share and in the meeting. And don't forget to upload the work. And we're good to go. Did anybody have a question before we go?
What's up?
I'm sorry, what tests?
Huh?
You'd raised your hand. What did you have a question?
Oh, no, I accidentally raised my hand.
Okay. All right. Thank you much. And we'll stop the share now and then the recording and end the meeting. Thanks a lot, folks.
Bye.